2024 is right around the corner, so we're going over the most needed Commander reprints that we would love to see for the next year.
I'm Mia, and I like cracking booster packs on Christmas.
I'm Beezy, Miso's annoying, and we're the Nitpicking Nerds, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. You can go buy the magic cards that you were going to buy anyway through Cool Stuff, and if you use code
NERDS
at checkout, you're saving 5% on your order.
You're also saving 5% on your order if you buy from Dragon Shield using our code Best Sleeves in the Multiverse.
Good sleeves, but the code is NERDS. The code is not Best Sleeves in the Multiverse, good sleeves. That's our slogan.
That would be a long code. There's going to be a Moxfield ad somewhere in the video. You can't guess where it is. If you said you did, you lied. Blah, blah, blah. Happy birthday to everyone whose birthday's today.
So we've compiled a list of the 20 cards that are the most overdue, that are like the most helpful for the Commander format these are all on our wish list. This is 100% of our wish list for 2024.
2023 have had some amazing reprints that have brought a lot of prices down, but there are still some cards that are $20, $30 and above that really need to see a price hit to make a bigger impact on the Commander format.
Yeah, these first couple of cards are lands, which means they can go in a lot of different decks. The first one is Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. It's $30. The last printing for it was in Theros in 2013. Since then, it's also been on the list, a Pro Tour promo, and in an Angel Secret Lair, but we don't really count those as meaningful reprints that are really going to do that much to the price, which is why this thing has just kind of been hovering at $30 for like years now, since the Pioneer format came out. This is a card that makes mana equal to your devotion of a color, and it basically goes in any monocolor deck.
It can even go in some two-color decks, but it's a big staple in monocolor decks, so it's understandable why the price is so high.
Yeah, we just need to get another printing for this. It's only been printed essentially one time.
It's so good. I mean, I love the fact that it's like thematic, like flavor-wise in God's decks, the fact that it's so good in monocolor decks, and it's just really sad to see that it hasn't been reprinted in a standard or easily accessible format in the last, 10 years?
I think Magic in general kind of doesn't give a whole lot of attention to like monocolor Commander decks. They only ever did one round of monocolored precons, and I don't know if they're ever even going to go back to that. Usually there are 2 or 3 colors now. So Nykthos is one of like the coolest supports, the coolest benefits of going monocolor. I want more of them out there.
I'm really surprised that they don't give more support to it too, considering when people first start playing Commander, it's usually 1 or 2 colors that they start on, like goblins, Krenko, or like elves, you're going to start mono green or Stompy or something. So it would make sense to have a staple for monocolored decks be a lot cheaper to help people get into the format easier.
Yeah, the next land is Boseiju, who endures, and we're going to go ahead and include Aiganjo, Takenuma, Adawara, and Sokenzan on here, but we're just going to talk about Boseiju. You can discard it to destroy something. They go get a land with a basic land type. But this is an untapped green source in a format where legendary lands matter just as much as basic lands because we can play the same number of anything. So it's not a downside. In fact, it's just better than Forest, and it's $36.
It also utilizes Channel when you discard it, so it doesn't go on the stack like a traditional spell would.
Yeah, it goes on the stack as an ability, but you can't counter Boseiju. It's not a spell. You can't counterspell it. So it's super, super useful. It's an untapped green source. The only reason it's not strictly better than a Forest is because it doesn't have the Forest type. Almost irrelevant. I would say in almost any green deck that is 3, 2, or 1 colors, you can cut a Forest for this, as long as you're not going down to 0 forests, and you're going to have a great time. But the $36, that's a pretty high price tag. This was only printed in Neon Dynasty in 2022. I think 2024, that's about time.
I know 2022 was really, really recent, but because it's so impactful that it really does need a reprint. Boseiju's at 36, but some of the other ones are creeping up there too. Isn't Adawara like above 10 bare minimum?
Yeah, they're all like 5+ except for Sokenzan, which is still a good card. These lands upgrade your deck, and they're just like those extra percentage points that you need. So I would love to see all of them again in 2024. Even if I have to settle for some kind of secret lair. Like, it's better than nothing, but I want main standard set printings or like supplementary set, like, if they printed another conspiracy set and put all 5 of these in there, great. That would be awesome.
That would be really fun, but I would love a secret lair printing. Neon Dynasty came out with so many cool artworks that would be really nice to see those in different treatments. Okay, well, we've held off as long as we could, but as far as cards that go in every deck, what do we got next? We've got Mana Crypt next. It's $170 right now, and its last printing was Double Masters 2022. It was also in special guests of Lost Caverns, Mystery Boosters, Kaladesh Inventions, Eternal Masters, Judge promos, and a Harper Prism book promo in 1995, but it hasn't had a ton of real printings per se, and it's still so expensive despite being able to go in every single Commander deck. Right, it was in Double Masters,
Mystery Boosters, and Eternal Masters. Those were really the main three. The rest were just kind of like premium versions that didn't really move the needle on the price too much. If anything, it made it more expensive. I think this card used to be $120, and I was like, oh my god, we need to get this thing reprinted. And now it's $170, and it feels like you can't possibly print Mana Crypt too many times. So I'd love to see it basically every single year until it inevitably falls below $30 and gets banned in Commander.
People always ask, will Mana Crypt actually be banned if it's going to be the price of Sol Ring? And I genuinely think yes.
I think it's more likely. I don't really agree that price should factor into bannings, but I can see what they're talking about. But if Mana Crypt is legal, then I just want it to be accessible by as many people as possible, and this is probably, at least in terms of playability, the most single expensive card in Commander. Like, I don't care about the old ones that are irrelevant, that, you know, they're like $500, but no one's ever played them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about that. This is really like the most expensive card that anyone would reasonably play.
The reserve list is so specific for so many decks, but this one can go in any deck, so I would also argue that this is the most expensive one. Moving on to another expensive card that can go in basically any deck in Commander is Jeweled Lotus at $83. Its last printing was in Commander Masters in 2023, but it was also in Commander Legends, which is why with only 2 printings, the price is still pretty high.
Yeah, once, you know, when you print a premium Mythic and then you start chipping away with the first or the second reprint at Mythic, it's not going to do that much to the price. So we need to see this like hammered and followed up on so that it can actually go down to maybe 50, maybe 60. That would
if you're lucky.
That would be really cool. I don't think Jeweled Lotus was as broken as people thought initially, because it doesn't, I wouldn't say it goes in any deck. I would say it goes in a lot of decks where like you have to, the 3 mana can be fully contributed to your commander. So if you have like a 4 mana, 3 pip commander, I don't really recommend playing it, but it goes in a lot of decks for sure. And it's kind of like pseudo fast mana, but not really fully fast mana. It's a good card.
It's a really good card, but I do agree with that, considering a lot of people were like, this is so broken, goes in A decks, and most of the decks that I play actually don't want this card.
Yeah, I think this, we can't go back in time, but this really should have been in Baldur's Gate, and it can we put it back in like Commander Legends 3? Can we put it in that?
I hope so. It needs to be under like $40, I'd say, for it to be easily accessible to everyone.
Yeah, I don't think Jewel Lotus is like $80 good. I don't want to pay $80 for a Jewel Lotus. That doesn't feel right.
It really doesn't.
Next up for most needed reprints, this card just only had 1 printing and never was revisited. It's Edgar Markov. He's $147. That's not even a real number. I don't know anybody who I wouldn't just say, just proxy that. That's stupid. This thing needs to be reprinted. It was only printed in Commander 2017 and as a Judge promo in 2021. Neither of those are like full sets anyway. So this has almost never been printed in a meaningful, accessible way, which is why it's $150.
I think it's really funny considering when I first got that pre-con, I was like, oh, the most expensive card out of this is Teferi's Protection. It's $30. Little did I know many years later that Edgar himself would be almost $150.
Yeah, Edgar's really cool. He's like the de facto vampires commander because he's one of the only 3-color vampire commanders in general, and definitely when you compare Eminence to the other ones like Leisha, he just crushes. He's really, really good. He makes tokens off all your Viscera Seers and your Falcon Wrath Nobles or whatever cheap vampire you want to play off of it.
Yeah, I really am surprised that we haven't seen even a secret lair from him too, considering like Ur-Dragon, the other most popular commander in that cycle, has gotten, I think, a couple secret lairs and then got its first real printing in Commander Masters.
Yeah, they're like so deliberately saving it, and whatever, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess, but can we get Edgar Markov? It's been 6 years, soon to be 7.
Yeah, I think Edgar is reasonably like a $40 card, maybe $30, not $150.
Not Mana Crypt prices for a random vampire commander. All right, next, this is a card that a lot of formats want reprinted for, but it's Shieldred the Apocalypse, $71. That's for the cheapest printing. Some of the normal printings are like $80. What a joke, right? I mean, this card is super, super strong for like Pioneer and Standard. Some people thought it was going to get banned forever ago. It was printed in Dominaria United as the only printing in 2022. But I think Commander players just want to play with this. This is not a broken card by any means. It's pretty fair. It's not even that good, I would say. This feels like, you know, in Commander, when you play Shieldred, you're getting like a $20 to $25 value. When you draw cards, you gain some life. When they draw cards, they lose some life.
It's value, and it feels okay to trade for, but it never feels good to pull out your card and buy it at $71.
It's way too much for this. It's way too much. So aside from it getting banned in standard, which I have no control over, I can at least wish for a reprint in 2024. That would probably cut the price in half, right?
I think so. I think also the fact that it was in multiple printings and one of them was Phyrexian made the normal, like, English one just skyrocket, considering you can't read the Phyrexian one.
Yeah. Shieldred's really good with, like, Nekusar type decks where you're trying to wheel everybody, play Dark Deal or Windfall or something like that. Or even if you're just kind of playing a mid-range deck. I think that's where it sees a lot of play of, like, group slug, like the Lysa type things, Camball. This is another one of those creatures that just kind of fits right in.
It doesn't really ask much of you either, so if you do play as a commander, you can go in a lot of different directions, because everyone's going to be drawing cards no matter what. That's just like part of the game.
Now let's get a red card. We got to get our obligatory one good commander red card on the video. It's Kadoxite Extortionist. $65. It's only gone up since it was first printed in Commander 2019, and it was last printed in Double Masters 2022. Probably also should have been in Baldur's Gate, but they sort of sacrificed that whole set.
It could have been really, really good in Baldur's Gate, but Dockside Extortionist is one of those cards that can go in virtually any deck that runs red.
Yeah, every red deck would play this if it's just a power consideration. It's probably the first or the second best red card in the entire format. Not close. Jessica's Will is up there. But Dockside Extortionist is just messed up. It's just messed up. It just gives you too much mana for what it is. It's on an ETB, so you can spam it and loop it, and it's good with treasure synergy, so everybody wants it for one reason or another, but not a lot of people can get it, so I would prefer if it was... Let's put it in 2024. Let's slot it in our all-star lineup for 2024.
I'm hoping for it. But as BZ mentioned earlier, he said there was only going to be one red card that was good on this list. But here comes number 2, Ancient Copper Dragon from Baldur's Gate. And the only printing was in Baldur's Gate. It's $53 right now. And it's a big beater in the air that makes a ton of treasures. I've had some good luck with it. But also... I don't know. I feel like it's been a little bit overhyped, and that price is not worth it.
For sure. And some of the finance people that I've talked to were kind of saying that because of the weird value of Baldur's Gate, the set value was so low, the mythic dragons sort of like absorbed all the value from the set. So this card is like not really $53. It's not $53 good. It's like a $20 card maybe. But I think if you reprinted it, it would completely tank. If it was a mythic in another Commander Legends set, I think it would go down to like $20 or something. But it just feels pretty inflated right now with like Baldur's Gate just being not a desired set. So the value had to go somewhere, and it's kind of just in the Ancient Copper. Specifically this card, yeah.
I'm so sad that Baldur's Gate wasn't a desirable set, considering that set was really, really cool with mechanics and stuff. But also, I might have a bit of a bias towards this card because I've rolled so many dice rolls sub 10 with this. But if you're looking for something that you really need in 2024, how about using Moxfield.com, the best place online to build a deck?
Yeah, there's no way that you thought that we were going to go through a whole video without Moxfield.com in it. We need reprints? No. I need Moxfield more than I need a reprint next year.
If you want to see the printing of any card, you can click on the view details while mousing over the card to see how many sets it's in and whether it needs a reprint or not, depending on that price, which it also shows you.
You can pre-program selections of cards like, oh, I want to add all the fetches to this deck. Well, you can just write in fetches as a little batch of cards. Moxfield will add them all in for you. So if you're not Team Moxfield for 2024, you're missing out. Next up is one of the cards that Wizards has been the best about reprinting lately, but we would still like more because the Great Henge is still $44 despite premiering in Throne of Eldraine and then being reprinted in Tales of Middle-earth Commander and then now being reprinted in Commander Masters. All pretty widely open sets, but it's still $44. It was creeping up to 60 or 70-ish. This thing your creatures enter with counters, you draw cards, it gains life, it makes mana. It really just does a little bit of everything that green wants to do.
It's one of the only artifacts where I would definitely say you should put artifacts in your green deck.
Yeah, this is the green artifact that I would always play. This card is sick. It can basically cost 0 mana when you play it, and it just starts accruing you advantage. And I think if you don't answer Great Henge, you're going to have a hard time beating a lot of these green players when they start like deploying Llanowar Elves and they just start cantripping and entering its 2/2s for 1 mana. It's like, can be unbeatable. It's a very good engine card, but I think 44 Man, I'm bummed out that it's only 44 after 2 reprints.
It's incremental advantage, and it's so good to sustain you through the game. But $44 is still a lot for it. I'd like to see it at 20, maybe even 30. It's a really good card, don't get us wrong, but it should be more accessible considering it can go in so many decks.
Yeah, come on, 2024, get it going. Anointed Procession, $43. Oh my God, it was on the list, but it was first printed in Amonkhet, and that was the only printing really, aside from some list appearances. I think the list maybe has saved it from creeping up to $50, but this is still a lot of money for a rare, just a regular rare that kind of just was pretty good. It's a role player for certain decks. In some cases, it's even win more, but it's fun. People like playing with this. It's fun to double your tokens. It's fun to double anything, really. So let's get, come on, at rare. But you know what I know? That if this gets reprinted in 2024, it's going to be a mythic.
Yeah, I think it'll be a mythic, but I think it'll also go down a lot in price, considering we've gotten so many token doublers, token triplers in 2023. I think it'll fall into the price range where those kind of settle at, which is definitely not $43.
Yeah, maybe it would drop to 30 or something, and that's great. I want token players to have all the fun in the world. All right, this next one is for these Kindred decks, creature type specific decks. Cover of Darkness, it's okay. It gives a creature type fear. But it's $54 because it was only ever printed in Onslaught in 2002, which is, I was 5 and you were 5.
Yes, correct. We are not that much older.
I think it might be time for a reprint on Cover of Darkness. This one seems to have slipped through the cracks, which will happen. It's not a big deal, but look, can we give Kindred players this mediocre payoff? It should not be locked behind a $54 paywall to go, the creatures are like kind of harder to block now.
You know what? I run 2 Kindred decks, and I'm not even sure if I want this card, but I'm asking selfishly, give me Cover of Darkness in 2024.
I want to open Cover of Darkness in a Modern Horizons 3
and be sad about it.
And be sad about it because it's a bulk rare. That is what this card deserves. That's what the Commander community deserves.
Another card that the Commander community definitely deserves is Commander's Plate. It's $36 right now. Its only real print was in 2020. It was in 2 Secret Lair decks too, the Coin Flip one and the Angel one. But this can go in any Commander deck that's either 1 or sometimes even 2 colors. It's really good protection for those commanders.
This card's especially good in colorless decks where you equip your commander and then it gains protection from all colors, which is super cute. This card kind of snuck up on people's radars, I think. I don't know if a lot of you expected us to say that it was $36 despite coming out in 2020. It's a good equipment card. It's just kind of popular for monocolored decks. It's like Nykthos. It's another way to incentivize players to play fewer colors, which I think is so much more interesting. I think I like those kind of designed cards, and I guess other people do too. So let's get this back on the list of reprints for 2024.
I think I'm also surprised that this snuck up in price, considering I'm pretty sure a box of Commander Legends from 2020 is still under $150.
I don't know what it is currently, but I know that we got a lot of them for cheap. Next up is another red card, so I guess I was just wrong about there only being like one on this list. I forget about red cards. Terror of the Peaks is next. It's $34. It's got this Warstorm Surge effect, so your creatures entering deal damage to any target. So this thing can mow down players and board states alike, and especially when a bunch of creatures enter the battlefield at the same exact time, like through a Genesis Wave or a Living Death or something like that. And this was only printed in 2020 in Core Set 2021, so it's overdue.
I've done a lot of damage with this in Kalia decks. It really does start to hit people left and right. It's hovered around $30 to $40 every time I've seen it. So this is really due for a reprint for the Dragon players, the Kalia players, and everyone who just has a lot of creatures just coming in all at once.
It's a tough balance for Wizards, I bet, because they're just trying to print more cool mythic dragons, and they'll probably never stop. But we got to get some love for the old ones that we're still playing.
There's a lot we're still playing too. Some might make it farther down on this list. But even though these Dragon players are getting so much value and love from the new sets, give them some love from the old sets too.
Give their wallets some love. Okay, Rat players also need love because Ash Code of the Shadow Swarm is one of the best Rat commanders that's ever been printed, but you might be never even heard of it because it was only printed in Jumpstart 2022 exclusively. I don't think many people open or care about Jumpstart or Jumpstart 2022, so this thing probably is under the radar, and it's just expensive for no reason other than scarcity. As soon as this card becomes available, I think it's like a $5 card.
I think a lot of people, when they were opening Jumpstart 2022, were talking about like Bruvac and the new Ristic Study printing. But Ashko maybe slipped a little bit under the radar. $34 is a lot for a Rat commander.
It really is. And Rat players already have to buy Relentless Rats and Rat Colonies for like $4 a piece. Let's give them a break, please. Can we just throw Ashcode on the list or something, or he has a rare in some supplement. Modern Horizons 3. I'm just thinking of printings this could show up in.
Modern Horizons 4.5.
Modern Horizons 7.1. It's going to have this.
The next one is one that I'm actually looking for a non-crusty foil one to go in my Kalia deck. Is Ranger Captain of Eos at $32. Its last and only printing was in Modern Horizons in 2019. And basically it tutors a 1-drop creature when it ETBs and you can sack it so opponents can't cast non-creature spells for the turn.
That's clutch.
It really helps with those combo decks and just in general if you think your opponent's holding something up.
Yeah, I like this card. It's a fair Magic card. It goes in a lot of commander decks, especially if you're playing like Esper Sentinels, Serra Ascendants, Thraben Inspectors, that kind of thing. But it also scales up to CDH like we've been dabbling in, where it's like that silence, esque ability of shutting off non-creature spells. It's not only good for, I'm trying to combo out and I don't want to get counterspelled. It's also good for, I have a dominating board state and the player before me is taking their turn on your upkeep. Sacrifice it. Now the board's not getting wiped in most cases, and I'm going to dominate.
I think it's really, really helpful, and the fact that it only comes down for 3 mana is not a bad rate for it.
Yeah, this card's sick. It's a 2-for-1 that gets you value later by potentially saving your board like preemptively. It's a really good card, but $32, it's been 4 years now, which is actually crazy to say that Modern Horizons was 4 years ago. But hey, Modern Horizons 3 is coming up. Am I right, gang?
The next card just recently had a price drop because it was banned in Standard, but we need this price to go even lower. It's the Meat Hook Massacre at $29. Its last and only printing was in Midnight Hunt in 2021, but it was also in the list, which has been keeping it around $25 to $30 depending on when you look.
Yeah, this card's pretty great for certain decks. I don't consider this a board wipe. I consider it more like a Bastion of Remembrance that can take out some small creatures if you pay a bunch of mana into it, which just turns out is great. A lot of decks, if you would ever play black for this card and pay X as 0, you probably want it in your deck. It's just got a lot of triggers. It does a lot. It keeps you alive in the fair non-combo games, and it drains people out when you're being aggressive.
Plus, the fact that it is on enchantment makes it a little bit sticky, so it might be staying longer than you'd really think.
Oh my god, it's so sticky. Whenever I play this, everyone's like, "We gotta kill that Meat Hook Massacre." I'm like, "No, I want to gain life," and then they have to figure out a way to do it.
Well, if you do this and then I do this, maybe it can die.
I'm just like, I already got my value. I played this X = 2 and killed 3 things. Now, this next reprint might be a little selfish, but I really want to see a Mycosynth Golem reprint. It's a $27 card. Its last real meaningful reprint was in 2004 in 5th Dawn. It's been in the list and Secret Lair, and I'm sure that's helped. I think this card was at 1.40 something. But let's just tank it. I want to play this card, but I don't want to spend $30 on this card. It looks like a fun role player for an artifact deck. I want to go hard, and I want to play big creatures for cheap. And it just looks really cool, but I just can never justify spending money on this card.
Especially since artifact decks can be on the more budget side, like Dad Bod Urza and stuff. I think that this is one of those cards where if it went down to, a few dollars here or there, then it could really help those decks get a lot more footing and actually stay on top of the power level despite being budget.
Yeah. Next up, we got Old Gnawbone. It's a $29 card, last printed in D&D in 2021. It was also in the list and a Secret Lair for D&D. Those didn't do a ton for this pricing, but whenever a creature you control hits somebody, you get that many treasures. This ended up being there was this cycle I joked about of a while ago about broken treasure makers of Smothering Tithe, Hull Breacher, Pitiless Plunderer, Dockside, and I was like, what's the green one going to be? And it was this. It ended up being, because they just make stupid amounts of treasures. By the way, it was not Bootlegger Stash. It was Old Gnawbone. Old Gnawbone. Every time I play it or see it played, people look around and see who you can connect with, and they go, oh crap, and you're just like, make 21 treasures, and then I will take basically what amounts to an additional turn by spending so much more mana.
Old Gnawbone slaps, and the fact is that you don't have to connect with him itself. Yep. It's just the fact that you play him and then you connect and you make a bunch of treasures. That's so powerful.
Old Gnawbone is just silly. It's up there with some of the best mana generation cards in the format. Really swingy, really powerful, and not miserable. Not really that unfun. It's just a good card. Just a good card that we want more of.
I think it's very fair.
Yeah. How about a partner commander?
The most expensive partner that there is right now is Sakashima of 1,000 Faces at $24. Its last and only printing was in Commander Legends 2021 stacked set.
Yeah.
And it's just really powerful. The fact that Legend Rule doesn't apply to you and it can make a copy of any commander that you have is just really, really, really powerful. The fact that it's usually seen around like Krark and the Sakashima combo to flip a bunch of coins, or you can just have it as a partner to any commander that you want doubles of.
Yeah, and it's also a card for the 99 because it has the legend rule not applying. So if you're doing some like way out there stuff, it's a cool build around to work towards. $24. This isn't the highest card on this list, but I think this does need a reprint. I think this is one of the cards I look at and I go, yeah, this thing is going to keep creeping up. And, I don't want somebody to workshop a deck and they're like, oh, I'm going to build this deck and blah, blah. It's like, but it's $150. It's like, well, why? It's like, because Sakashima's $45. Like, let's keep it down in this range, please.
I think Watti's really afraid of bringing back partners. That's why out of Lost Caverns, they made one partner and it was like the bird.
I was actually just surprised they did that at all. I thought they didn't want to go back to partners. I mean, I know that, what was his name, Francisco? He's not broken, but you can make plenty. If you want to go back to make non-broken partners, make non-broken partners. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'll go back to partners, but like specific partners, like the Owen Grady in blue or
that. Well, that's fine. I think partners
like
with
those partners with. But I think that if they bring back these partners, that they might be opening another door for people who are like, whoa, those are powerful again. It might spike.
Yeah, we don't need Sakashima to spike. We in fact want it to be reprinted. And then the next one here. This card is just not a $17 card. I'm sorry. It's cool, and I want to see it. But it's Benny Brack's Zoologist. Its only printing was in New Capenna Commander 2022. So this is like some Edgar Markov level, like not technically in a set, unaccessible, but really cool. Like it's got Convoke, and it draws you cards every turn. If you can like make tokens enter enough turns, you can draw 4 cards in a turn cycle. Benny Brax is awesome. He's dope, but he's just, these types of cards are dollar cards. They are $1 or $2 role players for certain decks as soon as they see any sort of printing. So this, to me, it's not one of the most expensive cards in the format, but it's one of the most overpriced cards in the format for what I know it should be, which is like $1.50, maybe $5.
It's a lot of value. BZ actually does have it in a deck, and I've seen it do a lot of work, but it is correct where it's not a $17 card. It's just because of scarcity, that price.
Right, it just needs to see one reprint. How about Modern Horizons 5?
Modern Horizons 5 in 2024?
Yeah. Modern Horizons 3, 4, and 5 are all coming out in 2024.
I'm so excited. That means, what, 12 fetch lands?
That means 13 fetch lands. They're going to only print 3.9 in each set. This is very complicated numbers. If you want that full breakdown, we can offer it for you later. But if you want to see what the best cards of 2023 were, so you've got a full grasp on how good this year was for Commander, check it out right here. And we got a tip for the day for you, which is to always throw out your garbage before you go on vacation.